Did I detect an undercurrent of acid in you saying, got carted off? Got carted off. I got carted off. Like, is that something that feels...
if you know me, well, anybody that knows me, I'll put it this way. You know, my head trainer who trained me the last part of my career would tell you the worst mistake you could ever make is to reach your hand out and try to help me off the ground when I train. I do this to anybody I ever work out with, players, you name it. But if you reach your hand out, I'll reach mine out. And when you go to pull, I let it go. Because I had a rule through the back half of my career that no one was allowed to get me off the ground. So whether I played in a game, whether it was in a workout, whatever we were doing, nobody touches me. I get myself off the ground. And the reason I have that, and people are like, man, that's silly or whatever. But for me, it was, all right, when I went from Cincinnati to LA, I was 35 years old. No team in history had ever given somebody a free agency deal like I got at that age to go play somewhere. And I made a commitment like, hey, man, if you're going to play at this age, there's a mentality it's going to take that you're not going to feel great. You're not going to feel awesome all the time, but you signed up for it and you're going to have to go live it through. And so I was like, at that point, I was like, nobody gets me off the ground. I got to get myself. I'm going to be hurting. My knees are going to be throbbing. My back's going to be hurting. I'm going to be exhausted. But the reality of life is, sure, you are blessed with moments where people come by and help you, but you've always got to be prepared to get yourself off the mat. And I think for me, it became a mantra that nobody gets me off the mat ever, no matter what. And so, sure, I'm grateful when there's moments where life gives you some help, but the basics I can handle myself. And so I started those years, and the coaches have highlighted the years, but first thing I would do, nobody ever gets me off the ground. And every single series, I sprinted to the hash to be the first guy on the field because I wanted those guys to know at my age, even then, like nobody's more excited to hit this field than I am. And I thought it was a message that I could send those guys and a mentality they could see in me, that they go, man, if this dude at 37 can always get himself off the ground, he can always be the first one to hit the field, then what am I doing? And I think that's the little message. I always tell people this story, but I'll never forget Tyler Higbee and Cooper Kupp one year racing me to the hash, and they beat me, and they're so excited about it. And I'm like, I'm laughing because I'm like, y'all are missing the point. The whole point is you have to do this one-off. I'm going to do this every freaking week. So it never changes. Every play, every snap. We're down 14. We're up 14. I'm still going to be the first one of the hash. And the consistency of that is what I wanted them to see. Is that's it's not about who won to the hash. It's about that every single week I'll be here and you can count on it, because I believe that the truest measurement of performance in anything is consistency. If you want to be a great parent, a great leader, a great anything, the ability you have to consistently be what it is you are, and people to be able to count on that. That's what we all really want, something we can count on. And so that, to me, with things that I was like, man, I want these guys to see they can count on me to be a bunch of things, tough and committed.
I think Shaq called himself the big Aristotle because he said, he was quoting Aristotle as saying, you are what you consistently do.
Amen.
Can you explain to somebody who doesn't understand what your pain threshold is, how absurd your pain threshold is?
I would say that the best example I could give is that trainers would be able to say this, but when I was in Cincinnati, up until about my 7th year in the league, probably right at 7 or 8, I like anybody else, I took the Toradol shots, all the ibuprofen, everything. It felt like I just swallowed ibuprofens all day, every day, for practice, for you name what. I remember being in the locker room and there being guys who were ordering their own Toradol, off the market and black market or whatever, and ordering their own pain meds and their own, anti-inflammatories. And I was sitting there, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time is Roadhouse. And so I love that movie. And so when Patrick Swayze's sitting there, his character, and he's getting stapled in the hospital, and he starts talking about pain. It just something about that moment. And his quote like really made me think to my mind. I go, all right, if I'm reading all this literature about the reason people are addicted to pain pills, the reason people are stuck on anti-inflammatories and all this stuff is the more you take, the more you need. I was like, man, why wouldn't it work the other way too? Like the less I could possibly take, wouldn't I get more effect when I have to take it? And so I started at that moment, like I wouldn't accept anything. So if I got an injury and they gave you ibuprofen, like I would toss it in the trash can. And so the last half of my career, like my wife will tell you this, it doesn't matter what, no Advil, no Tylenol, no pills. Like I didn't take jack. On game day, I would take an anti-inflammatory on those mornings, my last like 2 years. And that was the only meds I took for the last 8 years of my career, because for me, it was about, I don't want the effects after. I want to build a pain tolerance to where no matter what I do in life, I'm okay. And at the end of my career, it became, I'd hit an age where you couldn't control swelling and how your body reacted to the week. And so some Sundays I started waking up and it's like, oh my God, I can't move. And so I was like, all right, for these last couple of years, I'll take like a couple ibuprofen before playing a game or Advil or whatever it may be. And that's it. Like that's all I'm allowed. And so I played the last 8 years of my career through PCL tear, MCL tears, patella tendon stuff, surgery, all this stuff. No meds, no anti-inflammatories, no Tylenol, no Advil. And that's just in everyday life too. So forget just football, like ever. So no medicine whatsoever. Now, it made me where I like am anti like going anywhere and taking any meds from any doc or anything, but I finally kind of given into some of that stuff, but it was really a passion of mine to like prove that my pain tolerance could work the other way. And so that was something that I was a big advocate of, is like I was going to prove how much pain I could endure rather than needing something to make me feel better.
I would imagine, though, that in retirement you would get some sort of clarity on, holy shit, I have no idea how numb I had become to the kind of pain I was actually in. I'd gotten so used to living in some form of discomfort that not having to do this shows me I was crazy.
Yeah, my wife will tell you my favorite story ever. My first year retired, I'm doing Thursday night football, traveling the country or whatever. And maybe like, I would say it was a solid, probably, let's see, the game was last play was in February. I would say probably 9 months, maybe 8 months, because it was probably like mid-October, would be my guess, mid to late October. I never forget this morning. I like wake up in the morning. I'm doing the whole guy routine. I'm stumbling, through to the bathroom. I go to pee and I start like giggling as I'm walking to my closet to get dressed. And like my wife is like, what in the hell are you making so much noise for? And what are you so excited about? And I go, babe, no joke. I realized I just stood up out of the bed. I walked straight to the toilet. I peed. I didn't touch a wall. I didn't like hold on to the bed to push me up. Like I didn't have to hold on to the wall while I was peeing. I was like, I actually feel like normal. And she thought that was like the crazy, like you've actually finally lost it. Like this is it. You've lost your mind. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is the first time that I can literally fathom in my mind to think about that I just got up freely, like walked to the bathroom and then walked to my closet. And like, I didn't think about my knee. I didn't think about my hip or my ankle. I didn't have to hold on to the wall for a minute. I didn't have to like slide my feet just because everything was aching so bad. And I was like, I don't know the last time I've ever had this feeling. It was almost like euphoria. Like I was just like, what in the hell? This is awesome. And lo and behold, that December, if you remember, Cincinnati is, has a great end of their season. They get into January, they lose their right tackle, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And I'll never forget people texting me like, hey, Cincinnati's about to make this run, and they're really good. And if you remember, they ended up losing, I think in the AFC Championship, Chris Jones beats the right tackle that they had in there as a backup who was playing right tackle, and hits Burrow, and that kind of ends the season there at the end of that game. And I'll never forget, there was a lot of just like, hey, would you go back? Would you go back? And I was like, man, you know what? If you'd have asked me 4 months ago, hell yeah, I would have tried to go make a run or something. But man, that feeling in October, like I'll never forget it. And it's always what I think about. Anytime somebody says, would you go back? Would you go back? I'm like, man, that feeling and the feeling I have now, like I don't think I could ever go back to how it felt day in and day out at the end of at being 40 and playing in the NFL. I just, never want that feeling again. And I feel great now. And so that one always sticks in my mind as the reason that's no chance I'm going back out there. I'd love to be in that locker room. I'd love to be in the building. No chance I'm hitting anybody.
I didn't think there was a way that we would have this conversation and I would feel superior to you, but I get up and pee without touching a wall all the time.
Well,
so
listen,
I'm feeling pretty good about myself
you
right
should,
now.
Damn it. You should. I had a lot of like horrific, feel like you're 95 moments when I was playing, trying to get to the toilet in the morning. That's for sure. That O lineman, that's their least favorite thing to do is have to get up to pee.